How have things been going since we last talked?
Good. I mean,
I think we talked like exactly right before the pandemic, I think, really.
yeah, and I went through a lot this year, like I think everybody did, which was good, like mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And I think this whole like grounding process that happened forced many people, if they did, to really, confront themselves. Um, work on things that they didn't know they need to work on. I mean, just a whole bunch of things that I thought I knew about myself out the window. And then I got into Danny Reardon. Um, she's now like my best friend, like my sister, matter of fact, like text her all the time. But going through her conscious champion changed a lot of perspective for me. Um, I went through a process where I thought I was going to be able to stop camming and doing all that, but unfortunately, no. And now more than ever, more people are doing it because even though certain things are opening up, the economy is still kind of bad. So right now, like even if you wanted to go and start from scratch somewhere else, no one's hiring. The job market is what it is. So I've had to kind of go backwards and kind of in a weird way with Danny's help and other people's help approach it in a different perspective now. Like there's certain things I do, certain things I won't do. Um, so it forces me, not forces me, but allows me the space to not be so negative about it and to be more grateful because there are people that aren't working. So the fact that I am able to at least pay for my, bills, and I'm about to, if I can get the weight up, do a show. I haven't really done a lot of promotion about it because, truth be told, I'm 10 pounds behind what I want. So my coach is like, if you don't hit 160, we're not going to put you on the stage because it doesn't make sense. And I'm not one of those. I think you remember, not trying to do a whole lot of gear. I'm not trying to, I'm not doing what a lot of the industry. Like I see so many now that are like, no disrespect, but a lot of them are like just popping up out of nowhere, going from bikini to women's physique and then dominating women's physique and then going to the Olympia and doing all this stuff. And it's like, kudos to you. But I see what you're doing. And I've taken 2 cycle breaks to keep what I got and, try to keep everything as feminine as possible. And so, you take breaks too. So, yeah, you lose a little bit of muscle. So, there's just been a lot of things that, I've done this year a little bit different than everybody else, I think. Um, I am glad that, some of my friends are still focused on taking the time to grow slow. Like I know Miranda, Mini Swole, and she, yeah, so like I'm good friends with her too, so like she's been giving me positive, like keep doing what you're doing, because it's like I want to get there, and don't we all want to get there, but it's like, okay, we know what goes into getting there. So I feel like for my health and for everything else for the long term, I would rather, I guess, struggle or go through this kind of limbo that I'm in and not have, I don't want to say nobody ever arrives, but as an athlete, when people are at least paying attention. And so when that moment does come, I know that I'll really appreciate it more because of the longer time it's taking me to go through the humbling process and the time taking process. And, also learning too, like getting the pro card was actually the easiest part. This is the work. Like, this is when it's like, especially to someone for an athlete who isn't doing a whole lot of quick fixes and all that, like very low cycle, relying mainly on the eating and the training. This is when it's like, how bad do you want it? Like I just, started doing stuff for my YouTube, and I'm going to relaunch my YouTube again. talking and documenting about it because I don't feel like enough athletes do. There's a few that I am impressed with that do talk about
Did you see the
psych.
podcast that I did with Stephanie Flesher where we talked about it?
Yeah, and that was really good. But I'm saying athletes
Oh, yeah.
themselves electing to do it. And, like Danny and I, we've talked on her podcast about it because, she's like me, she's like encouraging, and I know too, because of the taboo, why people don't. But at the same time, I just still feel like unless someone's going to arrest me, like I feel like it's a good thing to be talking about in a healthy, in a you can do it in a strategic, you know make it super scientific if you want type of way, but not having these conversations about the importance of taking breaks, about the importance of you know not overdoing it at a waiting, even age, all that, just everything. So again, these young stars, good for you, but I fear for your future. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so you're the hot thing right now and you're 24, 25. That's great. Good for you. Like, I'm not hating on anybody that's anybody's success ever. But it's like because I know it's like it's not a matter of like disgust, it's a matter of concern. It's a matter of like just I have a couple of good friends. I'm actually glad they didn't get their pro card yet. Not because they don't deserve to get their pro card, but because it's going to force them to slow it down a little bit, which will be good long term. And it's like when you're talking about 20s, I'm talking about young, 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 young. Me, I didn't start until I was 30 something. And I still haven't done a whole lot of gear. And like I said, I've taken several breaks in between. So, I mean, it's like my story, my journey is completely different than the average. The average. There are a few bodybuilders that they did get started later in the game, but more so now, especially like the bigger name women, they're all in their 20s. They're all like 10 years younger than me. So it's like I admire that, and I think that's awesome because I wish I had that much discipline and focus in my 20s, but at the same time I am kind of glad I had time to grow, and my body is now able to handle it. You know what I mean? And eventually if I am able to get up into the upper echelons and I do have to do a little bit more, my body will have had the proper time. We did what we needed to do. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather go through maybe a little sprint where I have my little window of my prime, go hard and then done. And then when I'm done, you know what I mean? You can actually, put me on a shelf because it's like, whoa, 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 we don't even recognize being able to still talk to my parents on a regular basis. And the only thing they say is, depending on what I'm on, oh, your voice sounds just a little bit different. Other than that, that makes me feel good. And at the end of the day, I tell clients of mine, the crazy ones, I'm like, do you still want to look at me? Think about the future. And I have to put things into perspective. So you wanting me to get 19-inch peaks and do this and do that and do all of this crazy stuff on my 5'2" frame, the reason why you like me is because I maintain my femininity. You know that, right? It's like I have to like educate. I've had to educate so many of them because they're like, well, why don't you want to be like Lisa? No disrespect to Lisa. I like Lisa. She's nice, but that is not going to work for me. It's just not. It, so, it's like, it's just, we have to just, put more education behind it, so it's like, it puts things into perspective. Okay, what works for her and that body type and the fact that she's able to put that amount of muscle on, okay, that works for her. But not everybody is like that. Not one size fits all.
Absolutely. Well, I had a question too about like if there's someone who like there's like an Alicia Young who's just absolutely massive. How much drugs do you think someone like that is taking to be that big?
I don't know.
That's the scary thing. Like you don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you don't like to speculate because it's like it's not good based off of I've learned you can't assume and it's not safe to assume. But I mean, I would imagine that you know you've been in the business long enough and you've put on a significant amount of size. You know, there's there's got to be.
Because you're talking about someone that's too big for even bodybuilding. They told her where you're like you're too big even to be in this. We're like we're not gonna even. So that's just and I was just talking to someone who's 21 right before I had you on, and she already had like bigger arms than me, and her voice was starting to get a little deep, and I was just like, oh my god, what? Like I almost wanted to even just tell her I was like just tone it down just a little bit because I don't want to see what you're like in like 10 years or something like that. So it's yeah, they definitely got to be more mindful when they're young too, especially.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's a favorite in the world. I mean, she's killing it in the game, like seriously. But you know, as far as like to achieve that look, again, I do wish that people were having more conversations so people didn't have to speculate, so people knew exactly, so when people are saying, well, why don't you get, I have people that are like, well, why don't you get as big as her? Or why don't you get as big as, you know, this person or that person? And I'm just kind of like, do you know what it would take for me to get that big? Like, and so because I know where my body is going to max out. Like, and it's like you can take. There's this person we know, and this has nothing to do with bodybuilding, but she just likes to take. But it's a perfect example. She had a thing with taking testosterone because of all the things that it does, but she didn't really train. She's not muscular, but her voice is jacked. Whole bunch of stuff is jacked, hair, everything jacked. But it goes to show you can take as much as you want. If you don't work it or your genetics or things don't, then you're not going to put on, like, it's not a wonder drug. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's just like, being able to have conversations with people because some people are like, oh, well, if I just take it, am I just going to grow as big as, no, you have to train, you have to eat. There's protocol that, you know what I mean? And then again, we thought Mastrone was good because it is good for your skin and and certain properties for women. But I realized I'm sensitive and my hair was falling out. So, but again, having being able to have that conversation with my coach, him doing more research on his own, I'm grateful for because he was giving it to me last year, thinking that we were preserving. And when he stopped giving it to me, and he only gives it to me when I'm complaining that my acne is just really, really bad, but then it's a give and take. Then I notice I'm like, uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. You know what I mean? But again, being able to talk about those things. And if more women were doing that, it's like because it's like I know my hair isn't what it used to be, but I'm grateful that I can say I don't have to wear a wig.
It's crazy. But has any bodybuilder ever actually been arrested for possession of steroids, or is it just something? Because I don't think I've ever heard of that in the news, unless it's like someone distributing it.
Mm-mm, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
So I don't get why more people are more open about talking about it then, because it's like if there isn't really that fear of any repercussions, really. Yeah, I just don't get why it's so taboo. Because I mean,
I know that they say it's illegal, like, to compete, but it's like everybody knows that everybody uses it, so I don't understand. I think that you should, like, maybe like, the rules, maybe kinda reword it, maybe, like, assess how much is it. I wouldn't even mind. I would not be opposed if somebody was like a test to see how much and and knew based off of my body how much is too much in my system. I wouldn't mind if that was a protocol. You know what I'm saying? Because bikini, they need a little something. Everybody needs a little something. Everybody, when you're talking pro and Olympia. So I wouldn't mind if all athletes had to do a little check in, just like we have to check for our weight, well, bodybuilding. But like you do your check-ins and then everybody gets their blood work done and then, okay, ding, ding, ding. Okay, you don't need this much. You're gonna get, maybe I don't know, whatever they would do. But the fact that it's like none at all, when they know if no one did anything at all on the Olympia level, you would not get the crisp looking bodies that you want. So that means conditioning doesn't matter to you. So take conditioning out, because if it's illegal, we're not supposed to have it at all. That means across the board, none of us take it and lets everybody show up and get judged based off of what they have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so like if I was always wondering, so like if we were talking about a bikini competitor, what would you think they would be on gear wise? Because obviously they're not going to take the same stuff that a physique competitor would be on. And I've always found that fascinating because for some bikini, when I found out that even bikini people were doing it, I was surprised because like some of their bodies, you wouldn't assume that they were on anything just because they don't have that amount of muscle that you would have stereotypically, thought of as a steroid user.
Right. No, just sometimes just a little Anavar or something like that. But Anavar is still anabolic. You're still, with your blood and the composition and all that stuff. So when you're talking that, that's a steroid. Sorry. That was the first thing I was on just when my coach was just trying to get me going, and what a lot of people, like the average person, kind of starts off on, but it's still a steroid.
How have you been dealing with this whole coronavirus when the gyms were first shut down and all that stuff? What was that like for you?
I mean, my my local gym was actually open, so he kind of like, he was like a renegade, so to speak. He just kind of was for the people and was like, we had the lights off for a while, and just kind of don't kind of like boys club, like, do you know so and so? Okay, they know about the gym. Okay, do you know, so you know what I mean? It wasn't like now. I mean, there's a lot more people, but gyms are starting to open up. But it didn't really like slow me down. What slowed me down was my injury, and because I have tendinosis in my right hip. I got an MRI on it this summer. That's just from years of dance, wear and tear, pretty much. So it's nothing I can really do except for just been doing therapy and uh, chiro stuff like that. I mean, just the usual maintenance, but that's what slowed me down as far as training the legs and putting on this extra size. Well, you I lost some size. So
When it comes to also the steroid talk, how do you think that, you know, what do you think is a scenario where bodybuilders could actually start to open up about it and actually be reasonable with it? Because it is hard to find people. Like I purposely, don't ask about it, because I figure it's none of my business. But I've only talked about it when people have said that they want to talk about it because I don't pressure them. But how do you think that bodybuilders could be more open about this stuff so that the general public just doesn't assume and that there isn't this stain on people that maybe might try to do something naturally for a while, where then everyone just assumes that they're on something, or people just assuming that everything is bad, that if you use a steroid user you're a bad person when it's not the case.
there are some that are out there that are. I do like how they talk about the benefits of it. When they're posting, they're like, it improves your moods and helps if you want to just regulate your body, or you know those that want to increase sex drive. A couple of like the main things that I think the general public, you know, you wouldn't you wouldn't be opposed to something that would bring out those things in you, or enhance those things in you. So I think just being able to talk about the actual benefits of testosterone itself, when regulated, is a good start. Um, so and enough of this all natural talk, unless you're an all natural athlete. You know what I mean? Um, so
And stop promoting your stuff like if you train like this you'll look exactly like me, when it's like, no, you need to have a load of gear to look like that too. Like, that's the people that I hate the most.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That those people, the giving people a false sense of reality, and so I think it's going to be a while, because it really needs somebody. What we really need is somebody at the top. And unfortunately, right now, I could be wrong, but I don't think any of the top ones talk about it. So I don't know if maybe they're told not to talk about it once they get to the Olympia. I have no idea. Um, I don't remember. I think that might be a good question to ask Danny. I haven't even thought about that. I wonder if maybe when she was in the Olympia, if that was something that was, because you don't hear any of them talk about it.
And it needs to be talked about because so many people, especially women, when they first get started, they don't have the knowledge of what's really going to happen to them when they do it. So then they regret it later on. And we hear, all these. It's kind of like wrestlers, where a lot of these bodybuilders are dying at like 40 and 50, or even in their 30s because they overdo it. So it's really important to get that knowledge out there so that people don't make those same mistakes that people have been making for like the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, there have been a lot that have, you know, passed away at early ages, and that's very true. And so that's a lot of the reason why I just, I admire again the young generation of these like powerhouse women coming out of Europe, and we got some in the U.S. Um, that everybody's talking about right now. But I just see what they're, when I
Who
when I
who who knows what those Europeans are on? They're probably on some like Russian
well,
crap where
you
it's
listen to their voice. When I like listen to a lot of their I look at them and I'm like, I have more muscle than you, and you sound deeper than me, like already. I mean, my voice was raspy back in the day, anyways. I never had a high pitched voice. You know, I can tell when I'm on a little bit more. It gets a little bit deeper. Right now, it's in the mid range. It's not its highest. It's not its deepest. But I listen to some of these girls that are like these girls that are like figure to physique, and I hear them, and I'm like, and I'm bodybuilding, and I'm the stereotypical, oh, you're supposed to be geared up. Oh, you're supposed to be super masculine. You're bodybuilding. You're on so much steroids. And that's why I, again, doing it this way too. So I can show, like, no, you can be a bodybuilder, and you don't have to, if your body, again, having the right conversations too. If your body is genetically designed, then yes. I mean, if you're not meant to put on this much muscle, then no, I'm not going to advise you to be in bodybuilding. But I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to show women that are meant to be in bodybuilding, don't be so fearful of getting into this division, because you can do it in a healthy way. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that I can get higher up, not because I want to be, I always tell my coach, I don't want people kissing my ass. I don't want to be Miss, I don't aspire to be Miss Olympia one day because I want that. I want to get up there so that I can talk to the people in those rooms, the big rooms, and start having more conversations about this stuff, making the general public more aware, making it more mainstream, and making the everyday woman that may be fearful, oh, I have too much muscle. No, look, it can be sexy. It can be, I mean, everybody's got a different look, but I'm saying, feminine, but it can be feminine, and you don't have to um feel like you're this big masculine man. I don't. I feel sexier now, embracing the muscle. Like when I was younger, I had arms, I had a little shoulder. I was a box, but I was built already, like my body design was already, it was already designed to carry a lot of muscle. And at a young age, it was like there were already spurts of it. You see pictures of it, and people would talk about me and even say, "You're going to be a bodybuilder when you get older." And oh, look at those guns, and oh, let's arm wrestle. And please, before people were paying me to to fantasize about that, I was actually getting people saying that to me. So, you know, I look at a lot of these women, their before pictures, and I look and I go, I had more muscle than you. I had more muscle than you. So you, and then my coach goes, so you see, they took more than you to get bigger than you. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's like, that's why. I know there's not too many that are. There's maybe like a couple that I know personally that are trying to do it the way that I do it. There's another woman that she's coming up and she's pretty feminine. A Kimmy, she goes by Baby Hulk. She's Cuban. She's but she's American. Like she's out here and she's in bodybuilding and she got curly hair too. We kind of have a similar look. Um, but she's another one. So there are a couple that are doing it this way, and I think if enough of and the matter, what it's all going to boil down to is what gets awarded. And I've just recently bonded with Asha Hadley, and to me, she's my hope personally. No disrespect to anybody that's gunning for it this year. I just say her because she to me is symmetry. She's pretty to me, and I think she would help start making more women go, oh, I could do bodybuilding. I could do that. So she just won Savannah, and now she's getting ready for Olympia. And I've been just messaging her and just showing her so much support. And I'm like, just stay in your lane, just focus on you, don't listen to anybody else, and just bring the best package because you have people that are looking. I'm like, I'm looking up to you, like much respect. Like she makes me go, oh, in the future, I might have a chance. You know what I'm saying? She gives us smaller women hope. So I'm just but you never know because Iris is coming back. It's anyone's guess who they pick, but I'm just hoping now we have a chance to make it more commercial, more mainstream. So I'm just hoping that they pick someone that reflects that. That's my hope.
Is there a certain image that you have for you, like when you look in the mirror that you know that like is your limit when it comes to gear usage? Is there like a certain moment where you like look at yourself, you say like, okay, that's enough? Do you have like that in your head, or is it just do you have like a line that like you have where it's like I won't do that much? Is there anything that you have set in stone, or is it always just depending on if you do your research and find out that your body can take it?
Um, you know, when I notice like my facial hair is just like coming in too much and it's just I'm starting to kind of you can just kind of tell like you just look a little harder. And it's not when it's a difference between lean face and like a hard face. You know what I'm saying? And I've gone through little phases where I could tell if he gave me maybe primo or something for an injury to kind of up it. Like towards the end of the cycle, my face starts to look a little harder. Because for the most part, I don't wear a whole lot of makeup. I have makeup on now, but I don't either wear makeup or I don't wear a lot of makeup. So because of that, I can tell what I look like. And even with makeup, sometimes I can tell. Like even after a wax or something, it's just a shadowy look, a hard kind of look around the mouth. And I'm like, mm-mm, mm-mm. And I go, but we're not giving me that next cycle, are we? No, that was just to heal your injuries. You know what I mean? But I pay attention to that stuff. I care. But I know that that also, you know, you're not on a whole lot of stuff right now. My thing is you got to eat. And if you don't get those meals in, and that's me trying not to work too much and focus on making those 6 meals now. Sometimes I have to eat 7. I find myself within like 30, 40 minutes starving. So my what's gonna help me get up to 160 is I gotta eat these 7 meals, I gotta get this sleep and just keep this training up because I'm not on a lot.
If they were to announce that like everything all of a sudden became drug tested and mandatory drug testing for every single show, would you stop taking things?
I mean, if it meant that you can't compete, then I mean of course.
I just think, yeah, I was just interested because you never know, like with some people who might be like, oh, I'd still find a way just because you might have already seen what the results can do for you and just still be like, okay, I want to have that look till still, it's just a fascinating topic.
It is a fascinating topic. And again, more people, should be, you know, talking about it.
It should be, but they aren't. It's just that awareness that I don't think too many people. And let's be honest. I mean, bodybuilding isn't the most popular sport on the planet too. So I think if this was like a football thing or a baseball thing, then obviously more people would be talking about it. But yeah, it's something that I think needs to be out there for especially the people that are thinking about getting started. But when it comes to just like maybe like starting a cycle for the first time, is there any advice that you have for anyone that like is thinking about maybe starting a cycle and how to do it the right way?
Obviously making sure your blood work and everything is up to, you want to make sure you don't have any like underlying conditions or things that might uh mess with your, because everybody's different, and you're dealing with things that affect your kidneys, things that affect your liver. This stuff goes it goes deep. So making sure everything's functioning and optimal, and making sure that you do it as regular as you can, and making sure you consult. I I I say, before you try to consult online and look online, actually consulting somebody, whether it be a coach or somebody well versed in it, because a lot of online, you don't even know what you're getting either. You don't know if the product is authentic, if it's worth what you're paying for. There's just so many. I feel like when you're dealing with a lot of this online, the online steroids and the online, say, you know what I mean, all that stuff. So
Where would you like to see the whole bodybuilding community at when it comes to drug use, maybe within like the next 10 years? Because I mean, I think people might be doing more stuff than they were back then. I don't even know really the history of it, but where would you like to see the whole bodybuilding community when it comes to drug use at maybe like 10 years from now? Because it's always changing, I think, this whole community and what they do and the look and everything like that.
I think maybe if there was like a protocol, if there was like, for each division, maybe like a limit set. I think maybe people wouldn't go over, but it wouldn't be so taboo because people, it would be already commonplace and knowing. Okay, well, it's in the criteria. I mean, it's in the rules and the guidelines. So
Why do you think gear is still illegal even to bodybuilders? Because I think like the people who make the laws could maybe make an exception for like bodybuilding. Because obviously you're not like, I don't even know why it's illegal in the first place. I mean, yeah, it has its risks for it, but it's not like heroin. It's not like like cocaine or anything like that. I just never did quite understand that.
I, that's a good question, and I don't know if I could really be answer it. But I yeah, I think if there's more regulation on it, then it wouldn't be so taboo. I think everything is good in moderation. You can have too much water. So um, if there was more, I don't want to say policing, but I guess again policing on how much athletes are taking for what they need, then and then again, obviously the conversations being had when people are getting into the sport. Um, if I was somebody coming in with a body type only built for figure, I wouldn't be trying to take all of these different things, trying to get into another division that my body isn't designed for. So, that realistic sense of where do I fit? So, this is my game plan, this is what I need to do. and then knowing, okay, well, I'm going this route. Well, this is all I need to do. And if I, work these steps and do this and stick to the protocol, I should fit into the guidelines and be able to compete.
If you could go back and talk to yourself before you started using gear, would there be any advice that you would like to give to her as to, what to do? Or do you think that you've done everything, the right way, that you wouldn't have like anything to, warn yourself about, or just say like, hey, maybe watch out for this?
Um, I think because of my coach, I've been able to do everything um, to the best of, I think, our ability. Um, Especially because I haven't had to be on a lot, considering, and I've done the breaks. I just wish I knew really like the brevity of how much uh, we need. I, I guess the heaviness of how bad you can feel when you don't have that extra test in your body, and being warned about like the whole process of post cycling and then getting back up to it. You know what I mean? I wish I had a manual on that. I feel like both times I've gone through it, I haven't gone through it well. Like I've been emotional. I don't feel like I've been as disciplined, focused. Just different things that I know are different when I'm on cycle. It's kind of like, damn it, I felt like I've been here before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to get better at it, but I don't know. Maybe eventually it gets easier, but it's a real thing. Each time I've I've felt out of sorts. Just let a lot of stuff go. Everything, and it's kind of like all that progress that you feel you're making, because it's not only just carrying into bodybuilding, it's a mind thing too. So that transcends into how you operate in your day to day. So it's kind of like a car. If certain things are missing in the car, it's not going to be running at its optimal wet rate that you're used to it performing. So that's kind of how I feel bodybuilders. It's like our bodies, we're like these performance vehicles, and we've got, this premium performance fuel. Well, when you take away the premium performance fuel, we're not going to be zipping and running on the highway. Couple lights might come on. You might be like, wait, what's going on? I thought I was driving. You know what I mean? So that's the big draw. That's the big draw. And I think again, if there were more out there saying this is what to expect, this is really, and maybe like even having some like therapy for it, or forum for it, or some kind of community for it, because I feel like too, some bodybuilders and people that have passed away, they might have been post cycling, they might have been taking a break, you know what I mean, and not talking about the fact that they're taking a break, and people just think, oh my god, they might have been just suicidal, we didn't know it was that bad. Well, let me tell you, there have been moments where I literally entertained death several times a day when I was post cycling. You know what I mean? I'm a normal, rational human being. Yes, I have my mental health issues as well, but it's different. It's a different. I don't entertain those ideas. But when you're post cycling, the world is just everything just kind of comes down on you, and you usually feel this kind of feeling of you're invincible when you're on it. Even though life can be stressful and you go through the ebbs and the flows, you still got that extra. You don't have that when you post cycle, unless you're superhuman.
Yeah, I don't know if I've met anyone that's really like that. And yeah, there's so many things that go into it, and I'm glad that you're talking about it, because I mean, so many people just don't. And it's just a taboo thing, and if more people got out about it and talked about it. I mean, I think the problems would go away and it wouldn't be so under the counter and so, mysterious to so many people because yeah, the more knowledge that you have on the subject, I mean, the better off you are, and that's true with basically everything in life.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I'm no expert. I'm just speaking based off of personal experience.
And hey, and that sometimes is the best knowledge that you can have because I mean, if I were to talk about, like steroids, I wouldn't know really that much. I'd know probably about like 1% of what you know about it because I haven't experienced it myself. So it's always great when you get that knowledge of someone who's, actually been on it and experienced it and has just gone through it. But lastly, I mean, another thing that I hear a lot too is that sometimes, especially with male trainers, they aren't that familiar with, how the female bodybuilder works. So there are a lot of errors that from people that I've had on where the coaches just aren't that familiar of, this is how much should go into a female's thing. Because with males, I mean, we've heard stories that they take like 5 to 10 times of what females do when it comes to gear. So it's just have you seen or heard anything like that? Because that's something I think that really needs to be talked about as well. How different the male and female bodybuilders are when it comes to gear usage.
um, well, I mean, yeah, there is a definite there's a significant difference in what a male would take as opposed to what a woman would have to take, even on the bodybuilding, even in the bodybuilding division. And so again, that goes down to having a coach or somebody that is knowledgeable of how women process um, the anabolics as opposed to men. Just how we process supplements is different than how the men. So I've even had to learn that on bottles where instructions are laid out for us to follow, they're mainly made laid out for men to follow, and a lot of the products that we're ingesting, you know our bodies, women, we don't break it down the same way as men do. So, if it wasn't for research and then again me having my coach say, you've been taking this product wrong, I wouldn't have known that I was taking certain products wrong, that I wasn't take that they weren't going to be processed in my body for my optimal use. So, that is so important because you could be taking your supplements, and just as important as the anabolics are, supplementation, vitamins, all those things go hand in hand into making sure that you build and retain quality muscle. And and also make sure that you keep hormones and all of that in check. So there is a whole lot of assessing and science that goes into this. And again, one size doesn't fit all. And that's another thing. I'm glad that I'm learning now, still early enough in my career where it's not something I wasn't doing it for long enough where, oh my gosh. But now it's like, okay, moving forward, when I take certain supplements and I'm doing certain things, now I know to take it the right way. And, the last month that I started taking the supplements the correct way, my body started changing the way it needed to change. You know what I mean? So it's just knowing, men and women, what works for you, what works for you, and not trying to give what you give to your male clients to your women. Because 9 times out of 10, the stuff that you give to them and they can handle, it'll make our hair fall out. Or, you know, all the extra male characteristics that we don't need. So it's just, yeah.